These benefits are intended to enable low-income households to obtain a more nutritious diet by increasing their food purchasing power, not to stock someone's restaurant.
America, he confessed on tape. Federal agents showed up with the warrant, and Fernandez sat down, turned on the recorder, and told them the whole thing. But here's the part that makes this video different from everything else that you've seen. Massachusetts found the fraud themselves, confirmed it, killed the EBT cards, and then decided that notifying a single federal authority was inherently optional. And now the governor is on public radio calling the resulting prosecution a threat to democracy.
4 Massachusetts residents were accused of using stolen identities to get more than $1 million in food stamps and unemployment benefits in a multi-state fraud scheme, then wired the profits to people living in Venezuela and the Dominican Republic.
What is up, guys? TYSON Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. New viewer or returning one, I'm going to quickly walk you through the operation in 1 minute because the mechanics matter for what is coming later. Step 1, buy stolen identities. These are real people, real social security numbers, adults, and 6 children spread across New York, Florida, Connecticut, Kentucky, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. You go to the underground market, you pay, you get a list. Step 2 here, file those identities as SNAP households in Rhode Island. Claim 4 to 5 people live in a single household, all supposedly crammed into 2 apartments in Providence. Rhode Island never required a single in-person appearance. A form and a fake address were good enough here. Step 3, submit counterfeit passports to support those particular applications, fake documents, upload them online. Federal investigators later ran the metadata of those particular images. Every single one of those photographs was taken inside or directly outside the El Primo restaurant in Massachusetts. The forgery lab was in the kitchen, you guys. It was in the kitchen next to the fryer. Step 4, get the EBT cards forwarded to yourself via Uber. I can't believe I'm saying that to myself. Can't believe I'm saying that sentence at all in 2026, but here we are. The scheme's logistics department ran through a rideshare app. Step 5, scratch the names off every single card, set identical pins, walk into a BJ's wholesale with an El Primo membership card, load the cart with 20 pounds of packages of chicken, beef, and pork, drive to the restaurant server door, unload. Federal agents watched this all on surveillance over 150 separate times. They saw this, you guys. Step 6, sell the food at full price, pocket the cash, and of course, you gotta wire it overseas.
For many Americans who require government assistance, there's a process and the requirement to show financial need. But for Raul Fernandez, it was not a need, but rather his greed and complete disregard for U.S. law that drove his desire to defraud Betterment's fraud meant to serve those without. SNAP is a government benefit that is funded by the American taxpayers. What benefit did Fernandez think he needed other than to fill his pockets with stolen funds? We know that he was not simply trying to make ends meet and feed his family at home. He was using it for his restaurant that had paying customers.
Listen to that, you guys, what the Department of Labor Inspector General pointed out about the restaurant's name, because this is the darkest punchline in this entire indictment. He treated America like family, specifically the borrowing of your identity type situation, change it to the federal government, and send profits to another country without asking the kind of family here. The type of Thanksgiving dinner where relatives leave their dishes in silverware.
Case title and actually the name of the restaurant was El Primo. In the Hispanic language, I'm half Puerto Rican, but primo means cousin or family. What the defendants in this case realized or thought was that the American people was their family and taking away from the vulnerable population.
Now, all that was a quick recap on what we covered back in February, and here's what nobody's putting together this week. Fact 1, the guilty plea dropped March 25th. Fernandez is done fighting. Sentencing is July 9th, and he's already on tape admitting absolutely everything. Discovery is closed. The federal government now has a cooperating convicted defendant. Fact 2, the case is one node of a lot larger situation in Massachusetts that Foley has been building a case for months.
Just last month, I stood here to announce charges against just 2 individuals with a $7 million benefit fraud scam involving SNAP EBT benefits here in Massachusetts. This is the tip of the iceberg. We are investigating many more benefit fraud cases in my office, and today's announcement is just the beginning. What we are seeing in our ongoing investigations warrants this type of attention, and you should anticipate seeing more and more of these cases coming here in Massachusetts.
Since December 2025, Foley's office has charged 15 people and documented nearly $9 million in stolen benefits across multiple cases. El Primo is 4 of those 15. This is an absolute system operating without friction for years in a state that presumably looked the other way here. Fact 3, the same week that Fernandez was pleading guilty, Foley created a permanent fraud coordinating position inside the U.S. Attorney's Office. Not a task force here, you guys, a structural hire, a new role that exists exclusively because she has more benefit fraud cases in the hopper, in the pipeline, that she can manage through normal channels.
As a result of the rampant benefit fraud we are seeing here in Massachusetts, we are naming a fraud coordinator in the U.S. Attorney's Office who will oversee and drive the fraud investigations in this office. The fraud coordinator will act as a primary point of contact for benefit fraud in the U.S. Attorney's Office and as a trusted advisor to me and my leadership when it comes to investigating and charging these kinds of cases.
The United States Attorney used the word rampant to describe the benefit fraud in Massachusetts because it's absolutely overturned here at the podium on camera. And then 24 hours later, the governor went on public radio and called the investigation a political weapon. Someone's calendar is very interesting right now. Here's a specific sequence because the sequence is where all accountability lives. June 2024, Rhode Island's Office of Internal Audit runs a routine review. Notices 117 people supposedly sharing 2 apartments. Contacts Massachusetts DTA to cross-check shared identities. Massachusetts DTA runs the search, confirms $115,000 in fraudulent SNAP benefits in its own system, immediately deactivates the cards. And then, get this, you guys, does absolutely nothing else.
All of the stolen identities were used by the defendants charged today to steal from American taxpayers. The USDA OIG is not aware of the Massachusetts DTA making any referral report to the USDA concerning this theft.
The USDA's Office of Inspector General, the specific federal body that exists to receive exactly this kind of information, has zero record of Massachusetts ever picking up the phone. Zero. Finito burrito. Zero. Not a delayed call, not an informational heads up, nothing. The DTA confirmed federal fraud and treated it like a closed ticket here. And those cards got turned off. And obviously, Fernandez didn't retire. He went back to work. New victims, same method, including children, for presumably another year. Now, while Foley was building her caseload, the Trump administration was separately pushing states to share their SNAP recipient data with the federal investigators for cross-matching. The results from states did comply were instructive. 186,000 dead people on active benefit rolls. Let me quickly rewind that back for people that didn't hear that. 186,000 dead people on active benefit rolls. 500,000 duplicate payment informations provided. That's what data shows here, guys, when you're actually looking at it. Massachusetts' response to the data sharing request, the Trump administration hasn't guaranteed the information won't reach ICE. And according to the Boston Herald, Haley's position is that data is not relevant to the fraud being investigated. Not relevant, she says.
In an effort to reduce fraud and make sure benefits go to those in need, the federal government is asking states to share SNAP data. But Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey and several other Democratic governors have refused, saying there are already safeguards in place.
Safeguards in place. The safeguards are currently producing 15 federal indictments in 3 months and a dedicated fraud coordinator role because the volume is absolutely sky high to manage it otherwise. Those safeguards are doing absolutely amazing work here. Now let's hear from somebody who was inside the building while those quote unquote safeguards were running. When you got this kind of volume and get directives from higher ups to keep surging ahead and not ask too many evasive questions, it becomes overwhelming for a single DTA employee to try to counter. Directives from higher ups, not broken culture, not overwhelming staff, a directive. Somebody made an operational decision that volume mattered more than verification here. And that infrastructure filtered down to caseworkers processing 117 people supposedly living in 2 Providence apartments.
A Mattapan store owner is pleading guilty to a multi-million-dollar SNAP benefit scam. Prosecutors say 74-year-old Antonio Bonner would give the customer cash or alcohol in exchange for SNAP benefits while keeping a cut for themselves. Investigators say Bonner and a co-conspirator operated 2 businesses out of the same storefront. The U.S. attorney says the fraud continued because of a lack of oversight from the state of Massachusetts, which the governor's office disputes.
2 separate prosecutors, 2 separate schemes, same conclusion from 2 separate sets of federal prosecutors. Massachusetts oversight failed. Period. End of story. The governor's office disputes it both times. The indictments are not disputing anything back. And now here's how Healy tied it all together on March 27th, the day after Foley announced the fraud task force. He's going to weaponize every single aspect of the federal government to try to steal this election. You've got to understand the environment and what's going on here. Voter fraud in Massachusetts. It doesn't happen. Okay, you have to understand the environment. Governor, I absolutely understand it here. A Biden era federal letter telling you to fix your error rates, and a state auditor from your own party suing the legislator for documents they were actively hiding. Describes a system. Set that aside. The numbers make all of it concrete without anybody having to editorialize a word here. Massachusetts received $2.6 billion in federal SNAP funding in the fiscal year 2024. Every cent from federal taxpayers. Their payment error rate that year, 14.1%. 6th worst with the capital W in the country on $2.6 billion. That produces $364 million in error payments. $338 million of which were overpayments. Money that left the state accounts and went somewhere that it has no business going. Biden's own USDA sent Healy a letter in February 2024 before any of this was a Republican talking point, before any of it was on Fox News, saying her error rates, her case processing numbers, and her procedural compliance fell below basic federal requirements. The letter specifically says, I urge you to prioritize these concerns. Healy's response in the Boston Herald in March 2026, COVID hangover, C-19 hangover. The federal C-19 emergency ended May 2023, 14 months before the fiscal year even closed.
It is not particularly hard to identify these scams, but if you don't even care to look or prosecute those involved, essentially allowing criminals to steal vast amounts of taxpayer money with impunity, the scams will continue to proliferate unabated.
If you don't even care to look, not if you lack the resources, not if technology isn't there, if you don't care, period, end of story. The word is specific, and she chose it deliberately here.
72% of the general public, the voting population in the state, went out and said that they want increased transparency and accountability via this office conducting an audit of the state legislature. What is happening is our most powerful politicians here in the state of Massachusetts are turning back at their own voters, at their own electorate, and they're saying that the law doesn't apply to them. That is unacceptable. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, the law is the law. And people of Massachusetts, they just want to know how their tax dollars are being spent. This was something that the Democratic Party of Massachusetts endorsed, and the Massachusetts GOP also endorsed. And now we have a handful of powerful politicians who, think that they're above this law, just sticking it to the taxpayers.
Sticking it to the taxpayers, her party, her former colleagues, her words. 72% of Massachusetts voters in a state that hasn't voted Republican for president since 1984 said open the books. The legislators sued to keep them shut.
Individual states get to decide whether they embed those chips or not. Massachusetts does not.
The state with the 6th worst payment error rate in the country, which produced 15 federal indictments in 3 months, looked at the optional anti-fraud chip technology and said, no, that's a choice. Optional means somebody had to actively choose off. Optional here, guys. The 6 children whose Social Security numbers funded somebody else's chicken wings didn't get opted out of anything here.
This case is not a one-off. This is something that's happening throughout the United States of America. And when there's no checks and balances, when there's no guardrails in place, fraud ensues.
America, the thing Healy can't explain in this timeline, Biden's USDA flagged the error rates before Trump's second term began. The DTA whistleblower described directives to not ask questions before this came a political story. Rhode Island ran the audit Massachusetts should have been running. The fraud coordinator Foley created this week exists specifically because she has too many open cases to manage without a dedicated staff. This is what happens, you guys, when government decides that benefit access is the only metric that actually matters and benefit integrity here is only noise. The directive filters down, the questions stop, the volume surges, and eventually there's a guy getting EBT cards delivered via Uber. Sentencing is July 9th. Foley says dozens more cases are in the pipeline. The receipts don't care what she calls them. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.